morning and welcome to Never Not Here. My name is Richard Miller and this is perpetual motion as far as my jaw goes. So we like to have understanding and we wonder if we can get it. And sometimes we get it through words and sometimes we aim our words to say that the words aren't what we should be listening to. And it's just life we should be looking at. And of course life is happening among the words, or it's the foundation for the words, so it's really not that difficult. And sometimes if we don't really need to get a point across, if we don't have a point, or we don't have a teaching, or we don't have a, well, I don't, then whatever I say is kind of like arbitrary, and there's not a huge propensity to press it too hard. But in another way, I mean, we discovered together and we should just look at the details, because sometimes we can gloss over what we say and then we don't really discover anything new. So today we're with Canela Meyers, and so welcome, Canela.
Thank you, Richard. Great to be with you here once again.
I had a funny idea to start, you know. About 4 years ago, a niece was telling me a lot about different internet sites where you could make a kind of a world up. I think one was called Sim or something like that, probably meant simulated life, where you could have an icon and you could dress it up and have it live on a certain street, and you could make another life, or make a life, or play with, in a way, I guess you're playing with your life because you're trying to see, well, what would be ideal? And I've heard of other sites that are more for adults, and actually the one that's real popular now I think is called Second Life. Have you ever heard of that?
No, but it's an interesting perspective to look at what's actually occurring exactly like that, right? That in fact you aren't any of what appears to be anyway, right? This human being, this
That's
mind.
Kind of how it is, you know. It's like you can be anything, and therefore you're not any of it, you know. And
the trick is to not take it seriously, right? And once it's seen as just being this play, this person that's playing itself in nothingness, once that's recognized, you can just be with it and you let it be. You just let it play itself out exactly like, you know, and you can dress it up. You can, you know, put some little earrings on her and take her out for lunch, and
yeah,
you know, it's you know, have her belong to different groups. It's
and you can too, because the Second Life, you know. Okay, I went on it a few times and I was really thinking about, you know, trying to film some stuff or something, but there's all these icons and all these people get together, and of course you can type and chat with the typing, but you actually can do voice too, and so you can just talk to people, and then you would have your own voice, and the voice comes through on people that are close. And I found out that they're giving satsang. They're giving satsang in Second Life, and people gather at certain times, and there's a teacher there, and each one is an icon, and maybe you know who it is, and maybe it's just their icon name, and I was real curious for me to just notice that you can gather from all over the world, and then even in Second Life, you're just you can do what you want to do in First Life.
Yeah. Well, and what you say there, you can get it all over the world. That is so true in regards to satsang, right? There isn't a moment that it's not available. It's available in every single way, and sometimes more directly than others, more obviously, so that the mind can also become cognizant of satsang occurring. Doesn't really, you know, it's just a invitation from life itself. And wonderful if this is happening on this Second Life, is that what it's called?
Yeah, it's Second Life. It's kind of amazing, you know. So anyhow, let's see, what else did I want to say about it? I was real curious of Second Life if people didn't have their hang-ups from their first life. And in a way, people were more willing to speak to a stranger than they would be just in their own town. And then in another way, I sat in on some discussions. I didn't talk too much, but I heard people jabbering about how so-and-so is taking advantage of the system, or you know, it was the same kind of a gossip thing going on. Actually, one was a satsang teacher too. But I mean, it was just, in a way it was the same, but in a way I was thinking that the Second Life thing could drop inhibitions, and somehow maybe the same conditioning wasn't there. Of course, you didn't look overweight or anything like that. That type of conditioning wasn't there, because I mean, you would have an avatar that was slim looking.
Yeah, I guess not too many people would pick an unhealthy looking whatever, whatever our society says isn't fashionable, because, you know, that's one of the things that it's kind of astounded me about body shapes, and whether somebody is overweight or looks like whatever our society says is the right thing to look like. When I don't know about everybody else's experience, but when you hug somebody who's actually has a little more weight, I mean, it's pretty nice. You know. And when it comes down to it, as far as being with another in physical form, making love or whatever, I mean, the physical body, you know, what you're actually experiencing is little to do with sight and more to do with the felt sense of it, which doesn't really make a difference as far as appearances go. You know, whether somebody's small or big or whatever. At least in my direct experience, I don't see that that's there. How about you, Richard?
I've experimented on all kinds of friends. And I kind of bring this up because, all right, so then there's opportunities to do what we're all doing, is to make a persona. And you can try to make what you think would be an ideal one, and make certain magic and powers and looks, and of course, still, whatever you say is only coming out of your head. So you can't really create the Gettysburg Address or something like that. But a lot of people don't talk either. They just type, or they listen a lot. So it's not totally liberating, this thing. Mm-hmm. But I'm just, you know, my question probably from this introduction is that how can we know ourselves, or can we know how we relate to other people if we don't engage in some kind of a verbal exchange, or some kind of can we really know ourselves without any thoughts? I don't believe we can, actually. I don't know. I'll put it to you.
Well, if we were to include that there's actually a human being in this moment, it would need to include that, because human beings do think. You know, there are thoughts that are happening at some point. Then there's thoughtlessness happening at other points. There's wide open stillness, a variety of different experiences. I mean, it seems to me, this is the sort of thing that one can't be totally positive, but as far as my own direct experience, we are awareness playing this human game, and it's very human. And when you talk about this Second Life stuff, I mean, if somebody took that sort of idea, and instead of going on a game or on the internet and picking out different things, of details of what you can, you know, create, to use instead the actual real details of who you are, and see what you can create with this that already exists, exactly what is, and take these sort of playing pieces and create to the best of your ability, because it's fun, because you're here, and because awareness is playing itself as you, as part of existence. So it can't take away thoughts. It can't take away overweightness or things that you might not like about yourself or you might not like about other people. You know, it is exactly as it is. And the more deeply that you accept each piece of this play of you in existence, the better it gets. The more fun, the more loving, the more abundant. There's just more and more space. The more you accept, the more space there is for this being to be and play itself here.
Well, that was my tendency. You know, when I made an avatar, I happen to call it Never Not Here, but if there was too many Richard Millers, I suppose, but I just make it plain as, you know, not having any desires to put on any other kind of look or something like that. In fact, my whole life, in a way, is exposure, you know, and somehow I guess I have a silly belief that the more people that receive me, the more I'll receive myself.
Well, I think exposure, like what you say, like in satsang with Canela, in the longer period satsangs where I leave the chair and I invite other people to come and sit up in the chair as the one giving satsang, you know, holding the space. And there's something beautiful about that because people are willing to be exposed exactly as they are. So to be seen as that and to see as that, you see, it's a two-way thing, to see and be seen. And that's actually occurring all the time, but the more conscious you are and the more willing to actually consciously put yourself forward in this exposure of simply who you are. Exactly. Just giving it up to, you're just this human being, nothing more, nothing less than right here, right now, what you are.
Right here, right now, you know, when you say who you are, just means in the moment, right?
Right, and right here, right now, I mean, that's my book, right?
No.
That's
oh, yeah? Okay. Canela's got a book, and tomorrow we'll be able to show it to you, but today it just hasn't come in the mail yet.
It's arriving on Wednesday.
Right here, right now.
Yes, right here, right now, meditations. And that's exactly what the book is full of, is they're just reminders that you're a human being. So I'm not to say that it's wrong or anything like that, what other people invite about dropping your story and let go of the mind and all that kind of stuff, you know. If that's what attracts a person, then that's where they need to go to play with that stuff. What I like to invite is simply, you know, if you find yourself at the computer, to bring awareness in as the primary observer, shall we say, because that's the truth. It is actually what is primarily happening, no matter what it appears to be or how it is perceived. But the beauty is, it's available whether you're watching TV. It's available when you're cutting up vegetables. It's available, you know, in such mundane, regular ways. And every invitation in the book is about that. It's about allowing yourself this humanness. It's not about getting rid of anything at all. It's about allowing, exploring, and being with what actually is. Because it is true. If you're thinking thoughts of not liking somebody else, well, that's just the truth. Attempting to hide that, well, then it almost magnifies that. So the way to freedom is in complete acceptance of the human aspect as much as anything else. And that's what the book promotes. This one's called Harmony, inviting this within and without. Whether we are aware of it or not, nature is always looking to bring balance to itself. Within, in the divine masculine parts of yourself and the divine feminine, the yin and yang, the dark and the light, as well as all of this which appears to be outside of yourself. Nothing is bad or wrong. Only perhaps in some moments there is an imbalance. the universe will collaborate to bring balance to whatever is out of balance. If you allow a space to see this balancing act from your own experience, you will see that this has been happening all along. What this balancing is also called is healing. Healing yourself to wholeness. That sounds as if you are doing something, when really it is an allowing happening. Your very nature will attempt to bring harmony or balance in each and every moment. When imbalance is happening, we can see and feel it in the discomfort that it may bring. That is all that the discomfort itself is attempting to show us, that something is out of balance. Looking at life and its happenings from this perspective makes it all easier. Discomfort becomes an indicator rather than something to get rid of. Harmony is being invited directly when discomfort is present. And then satsang supports this way of harmony, where one can give harmony itself space to come into itself, where discomfort can lead the way by feeling it fully to harmony. And then this is the experience of peace with all.
Thank you, Canela.
How is that to actually read, like to hear it? I thought that was kind of, it's different not being able to connect in the visual.
I like very much what you said, because I was kind of trying to drive that at the same point, but maybe I was going in a long way. But I brought up Second Life, and you said, well, how about making an avatar that's just exactly like you and accepting all those things? And the point that I was, the question I actually phrased to you was, can you know yourself without this series of communications that you tell yourself? And maybe I said, can you relate to somebody without some kind of verbalization? But it's also a verbalization or a story that you tell yourself. Can you even know anything about yourself without that? And I think you mentioned a teaching that says drop your story. And maybe that just means drop your current story. It doesn't mean don't have a story, completely don't have a story. But I mean,
it means not to attach to yourself or identify with yourself as if, okay, your story is that you are a doctor and you have a wife and 3 children. Then if you go around wearing that, like that icon that you're saying, and think of yourself as being the doctor with the 3 children and the wife, and carrying that around everywhere, well, that's not the best. Whereas you're just this being, your awareness traipsing around as this human being. That's the play in each and every moment. So I don't know, I guess I'm not, my preference is to point to exactly what is occurring, inclusive of absolutely everything, that there's nothing wrong whatsoever with anything that's occurring. The only thing that holds us separate is an idea that it's wrong or it's not wanted. And in this not wantedness, well, that's a no. That's like saying no to what is. So to go around full circle to your question, to touch or to try to say that sharing or not sharing, allowing your story or not allowing, it's whatever is actually occurring. So that there's speaking happening right now, there's a choicelessness in it. There's a freedom in it, because it's just how everything converged into this moment to have speaking happen. To withhold that out of some idea of what stillness looks like or what satsang looks like would be a withholding of the expression of who you are. And then that's withholding happening, and even that's okay. it's just noticing, oh, look at that, withholding happening. I'll be darned. and and there you are, So does that answer your question about sharing? I mean, to me, one of the most wonderful things about awareness is that we as human beings can be conscious of this. We can be aware that we are awareness. That's the gift. And so the beauty is allowing. How much do you dare allow everything that's here, including yourself as a human? Right? And that means getting pretty mucky, getting right into your stuff, getting really close and comfy with all the whatever it might be, it's over and over again. That's what I see, is people stopping themselves because they think they should be some other way, or they think that awareness looks a certain way, and those are just ideas. So
I guess I asked the question because I had the thought that some people feel like when they're coached to give up their story, that there would be some kind of an ideal state where there was no story going. And I'm just saying that if there was, there would be nothing to grab onto. You wouldn't even know it. There would be nothing you could say about such a state, and that's not a state that anyone that I know of lives in.
Yeah, and I'm not sure, but I think that a person would leave the body at that point, right? Because if there wouldn't be anything to hold, there wouldn't be any magnetic intelligence holding the body together if there wasn't some fabric of flavor of being that's expressing itself. It might just completely let go into awareness itself, into the nothingness, into the absolute.
And that's a good thing to say in a way, because it just says it's not a desired state, not that we know what would happen. We don't know anything about it, but
well, we can certainly taste it. We can certainly go to the absolute. We can certainly let go of everything and dissolve into nothingness and feel ourselves as the absolute. And there's also, in that journey from a contracted, perhaps, state or identification with the story, and then relaxing open until you're dissolved into everything that is, and you're aware of that. And in the very next moment, something begins to occur. The phone rings, someone walks into the room, you start a conversation, and life is occurring, and something engages itself, and this is beautiful. To me, this is so gorgeous, so magnificent.
Is that obvious that it's beautiful? Because some people will say, "Oh my God, I lost it." You interrupted.
Exactly. I mean, and I think we spoke about this before. That people say, "Well, when they come to satsang and they expand out into all that is, and they're aware that they are totally open and free." There's a beauty in that, and then they make it's just kind of a mistaken idea, as if something else begins to play. Say somebody's eating a bowl of cereal, as if in this eating, you aren't also awareness eating and, tasting the soy milk, or depending on what you use with your cereal, in your mouth as you're drinking, and you're noticing that drinking is happening, that eating and tasting is happening, and smelling is happening. And my goodness, I mean, the wonderful array of experience of being human. I mean, this is why I call it beautiful, because to me, relaxed, open to it completely, and in enjoyment, and in the willingness to embrace all the parts that you are, no matter how they look, whether they look pretty or whether they look maybe dark, that it's okay. It's just to not hold anything away, or to find out, holding away is happening, and just to see what happens when you let go, to relax open to whatever it is you've been perhaps avoiding or not wanting to admit.
People talk of presence, and in a way, a greater significance of presence means that, whatever's here, you can see it. And
Yes.
people are coaching that meeting yourself in some way, that instead of running from yourself. And that's exactly what you said when you said the second life icon should just be who you are, and maybe you could figure out and meet yourself. And
Yeah.
then,
And
and
I
then,
meant actually right here as you are to play that very same game, but without the computer, without the internet, with this that's actually occurring, this icon, right? I was just, at one point, awareness was born into this system of a human being, whether it's a woman, whether it's a man, whether it's a mother, or whether it's whatever this is, this expression. I didn't do anything to make it show up like this. I did not create this myself, but somewhere along the line, I committed to experiencing life with this set of everything that is, and to be present to that, to enjoy this. I mean, why not? Why not be with it to such a great degree that you enjoy it even when you're feeling pain? Because feeling pain will continue. It's part of being human. To take away the felt sense, say if a rock landed on your foot, would there be pain? Yes. And sometimes it's emotional pain when people lose loved ones, and it's not really a losing, it's the change from the physical body into the etherics of being still in contact in heart when someone leaves their actual body, when they depart the physical. I mean, even to say they depart the physical realm isn't, I'll say, third dimensional realm, because you can still speak with people who have passed away in heart, in essence, perhaps sometimes even more strongly after they have left their mortal body.
so then this meeting is not always so easy, because I guess part of the meeting is a trigger, or it triggers you. Thoughts trigger you, especially pain triggers you, emotions trigger you. And so then people kind of devolve it and coach that you should just meet, in that case, if you can't meet any of those others, meet just the sensation and meet what's happening in the body.
So a trigger, see, the what you're saying is that you react to the emotion, or you react to the pain. And what I'm suggesting is you actually just surrender to the pain. You surrender to the emotion. You surrender to whatever it is that is current. You surrender to, if you yelled at your kids in the morning, admit that, let it in, and go, okay, so that wasn't the very best. And all you can do at this point, it's already happened, is apologize to your kids, apologize to yourself, and forgive yourself, but totally admitting that it's true. Yeah, I yelled at my kids this morning. It's just embracing that. It's not pretending that it hasn't happened, or to say that you're not spiritual because it did happen. It happened because you're human. And who knows what your background is and what your own upbringing was that may have been about somebody yelling at you when you were a kid. And it's a natural learning that the more you allow yourself and tend to, right? Okay, so tending to what is when things repeat themselves. So if it repeats that you are yelling at your kids and that you're feeling terrible and they're feeling terrible, well, tending to what is to see in the moment, what can I do to bring balance to this? And then you're living your expression when you take action and do whatever it is that feels the most true and most loving to bring balance to your own heart around that topic. It's not wrong. It's just already occurred. Now what can you do? How can you be with this in some loving way?
That's a good question. Because like you said, well, instead of reaction, you could embrace what's happening, but you didn't do the reaction, and you're not going to be doing the embracing either.
Well, you might be embracing the reaction.
Yeah, there you go.
It's each moment. It's that little, right here, right now, exactly as it is, inclusive of absolutely everything. So it doesn't, the infinite or consciousness does not exclude that you might be attached to a story that's going on in your mind. It doesn't say that that doesn't belong. Because it's already occurring, it's already belonging. So it's all of it counts. All of it's whatever a person is experiencing. There isn't a part that you can take away and say, oh, well, that's not spiritual, so I'm going to put that aside and work on that, and then when that disappears, I'll be more spiritual. It's more about, oh, this too. I embrace this, even this. Wow. Okay. And then you bow to that.
And then some change occurs. It loses its juice, right? Or it doesn't.
Yeah, well, it depends on what it actually is and the learning that's happening, and your flavor of expression. So these mucky moments, shall we call them, the parts that we perhaps hold ourselves away from, will be the very same things that we, in our expression of it, once we've accepted each and every bit, no matter how blicky it looks, once we've accepted that, then it ends up being embodied. And that is an essence then that you carry, that it's okay to be completely human. And as you walk this earth, that essence is felt and touched by absolutely everything. And it gives more permission for other people to also accept these parts of themselves that they may not like or they've been avoiding being with. So
in some way you said that, it sounded like you said that ease is embodied, but in another way to look at it is that it's neutralized. I mean, that which was embodied, which was your nervousness and your anxiety, was embodied, and that's become neutralized. And what now the body is just
it becomes part of the
clear
expression.
space.
It becomes part of the expression. So it doesn't necessarily get neutralized. It may actually energize because it's actually energy. So energies like anger and frustration, irritation, these are really strong flavors of consciousness. And yes, I'm saying that anger is a part of consciousness. It's just as spiritual as everything. It's how are you with this anger and this potent energy. When you embody it as energy, you can apply it to such a great degree of healing for yourself and other people. It's like having fire in your hands and being able to apply this fire to burn off whatever you no longer need in your life. So, I mean, long and short of it is, I'm saying that there aren't any rules here. There is just awareness, being aware of everything that's occurring. And there's this humanness that gets to be more and more conscious of that truth, no matter what that truth is or what it looks like. So.
I guess I like that second life metaphor because I think that we're all living, in a way, a virtual life, or a life created on a story that we tell ourselves. And I'm just wondering exactly what would be, maybe that was my question in the beginning, what would be left without any story? And I don't think anything would be left, and that there's always a story. And even the ease that we feel is a story that maybe it's a story that no one story is better than another. And so then it's a less of an interest in stories, but then they pop up and get acted out just the same. It's clear that we're leading a virtual life, virtual like as a metaphor to the internet.
Yes.
Something that is software based. It's software based. It's based on our agreement of who we are and how we live. and other societies have a different agreement.
That's right. Yeah. And so these cultures, I mean, all of it counts. Politics count. Everything that is part of your actual direct experience counts. So, of course, cultures count, and your past, the apparent past, which you have experienced, becomes a part of your now in every single moment. You're a constant creation.
So your apparent past becomes a part of the now, which means that you recognize the now through the filter of your apparent past. That's the descriptions that you place on what you see. Something like that?
Well, any apparent past that shows up now becomes part of now. So this idea of memories, when people say, okay, oh, that's in the past, leave it alone, but too late, it's already here. You know, if something's been brought into the present moment, it has. And then we can deal with that or be with it as is appropriate. To be with it, you know, it's like that Christian saying, you know, what would Jesus do? Or what would Jesus say? I mean, really, for me, it's more like, what would your heart say in this moment? How would love like to speak about this, if this apparent past arises in the moment? So, you know, in my book, and we're back to right here, right now, because it's launching on Wednesday. I mean, it really is a part of the play of this expression in support of everyone who's interested, who feels a draw to drop into themselves, inclusive of all the human aspects of who you are. So what do you have to do with your book? Do you have to do a book tour? Are you going to be moving around and going to bookstores and a whole... Sure. Sure. How fun! Yeah, no, I am. Well, I'm over in London for satsang, and in Germany for satsang, and also going to be doing a couple of speaking engagements for, you know, the book, and then probably once I return from that European tour, doing more, going to like body, spirit, mind expos, you know. I probably got the name wrong there. In Canada. Yeah, I'm going to be presenting this book because this book is like what you were saying earlier, okay? So I've created this icon called this book, right here, right now, meditations, and it is an exposure of the particular expression of consciousness that I am, this Canela Michelle, because I did actually take the time to write these invitations. I did take the time to go through this scenario of becoming an author, so as to support awareness itself, awareness in each and every person who feels drawn to this book. And I mean, it's a delight to me if I can support people to accept their humanness, to relax open, to let go of any ideas around what it looks like to be an awakened spiritual person, and accept what actually is. I mean, that's a joy to me. I can't help that. That's just a joy. I'm helpless in wanting that for everyone to relax into exactly who they are as a human being, to enjoy themselves fully, and more fully, and more fully, you know. Whatever wants to be healed will just rise in the moment. And your key is to notice what repeats itself, and then see what does the heart say, what does love say about this, and how can you be with this newly. It's like you yourself are knocking at your own door by having those repetitions happen. So something's repeating. It's actually you going, oh, excuse me again. Hello. I mean, it's the perfect healing system because it won't stop speaking to you until it finds itself in wholeness. That's what's actually occurring. Wholeness is actually a natural happening, and when you become consciously aware of that, or even cognitively aware that that's what life is for, it changes and becomes much more easy, and it becomes a dance of you with these details of what actually is true in each and every moment.
So that's the great game, right? And once, we could just take it like that and just say, hey, come on, let's play. Of course, okay, we're all playing Second Life, so let's all play First Life.
That's right. We are. We're playing it whether we know it or not. And I'm just suggesting why not go along with it and know this. You are a game playing itself out. You are awareness playing itself out as the expression of you in all that is. This little bit.
Maybe what you're saying is play the game, but have fun at it. Play the game with a little bit less anxiety and little less seriousness, and really enjoy yourself.
That's the play. That's exactly it. Play is not work. Play is play. And even if a person is experiencing some sort of pain or some healing, healing will often, pain will be part of the experience, because whatever it is, there's a reason why you've been holding away from stuff, because it's going to probably be uncomfortable as it expresses itself, and you're willing to be with it. But at the same time that's occurring, when you know it's just a play, and you know it's already been with you all the way along, it makes it okay. And you just allow whatever it is that's occurring to express itself, and you're just there being with it, and as best as you can, not touching it. Just let yourself feel. This is true surrender. Not touching what is, just letting it happen, and you breathe and be with that. That's it. Breathe and be with it. Because you are anyway with it. That's the joke. You already are with it anyway. Why not go along with this game? I invite you. And this book that's coming out June 1st invites you. And if Richard does get this up online and people do see this interview, there are a number of gift with purchases on to support the launching of the book, available before and on June 1st, which is just Wednesday. So.
Oh yeah. So what does a gift with purchase mean?
People have sponsors are giving gifts. Like there's an excerpt from someone's book. So when you purchase my book, you get a link that sends you to all these sponsors, people who have sponsored the launching of my book. So in other words, they've donated some gift. And maybe other authors have, a piece of their book. They send it to you, so you can get a taste of their book.
So is that on? Where do you access that on your website?
Through my website, it'll take you through to so CanelaMichelle.com is, it'll take you. There's a book right on the home page. You can click right on the book, and it'll take you to another website that you can then pre-order the book, and therefore get the gifts, receive the gifts, as well as it's actually, the regular price is $22, and for the book launch, it's $19.95.
Oh boy, is that Canadian or is that English?
yeah. So it's in English so far. I'd love to be in Spanish, and I do intend to to tape it. I'm going to speak it and have it available for people who prefer to listen to an audio book. But that will be probably after the European tour, I imagine, as well as it'll be a Kindle book and various things. But for now, it'll be available on Amazon.ca, Amazon.com, and Amazon.co.uk. So in other words, England, the USA, and Canada so far.
Great. Good job.
Yeah. See, now we could take that and you could listen to this stuff about me saying, oh, there's this book for sale and all that. And we could say, oh, well, that's not very spiritual, right? And it's just part of what's actually occurring here. It's part of all that is. And in celebration, if I'm going to be really true to what I'm saying and inviting you to, then I need to be in celebration of this book that I'm offering out. And this is just part of how we do it here on this Earth planet, in getting the word out and letting people know, hey, there's a deal if you're interested in this book. Buy it now, right here, right now. I mean, like the book says.
No, can I think about it? No, right here, right now. Okay, let me go back to the game just a second here, because we talked about a game of basically accepting yourself. And in a way, I kind of hate to say there's tendencies, and there's evolution and all these things. But in one way, it seems like people accept each other much more than they ever did before in my life, in my view of things. And many times people say, oh, okay, the world that you receive is kind of a reflection of who you are. And so then I could just say that I must be, in order to notice that people are accepting each other, I must be accepting them in a wide range of people more than I used to.
And accepting yourself.
Therefore, and therefore accepting myself too. And so then this could be actually one of your invitations. I don't know if you wrote that one in, that you could just start accepting people that you didn't think you accepted before, Maybe people that are not of your culture, maybe people that are more mean or gruff or more direct, or, people that are loud, or people that kind of take advantage of, like jump in front of line in front of you or something like that. And
well, what the book actually invites is when that occurs and you feel something in response. So you see somebody butting in line and you have these thoughts, oh, look at that jerk or whatever it is. To stop in that moment and see where does whatever just occurred, where does it connect with you inside? Because if you are reacting to it, then there's something for you in that moment. And whoever that was just gave you a gift.
Do you mean like a sensation, or do you just mean like a thought process or pattern? Or
if you have some sort of judgment and you want somebody to be different than they are, so right, you would, in a perfect world, it would be as if that guy wouldn't, and of course I think a guy, I just noticed that, that guy butted in line, right? Say even in traffic, when the guys are mostly a little more, perhaps, I don't want to put any.
Okay, no, I'll put something on it then. I mean, because when that person is just standing still, that lady's standing still in front of you, doesn't know which way to turn, left or right, you could just say, well, let her figure it out. Of course, I said a girl.
Yes. Oh, okay. But the other part is, if you react to it, if you're saying they shouldn't do it on any level, if you have an idea that, oh, they shouldn't be like that, or you react and go, oh, look at that jerk or whatever, and you're feeling no to whatever it is that just occurred, you would rather that didn't happen, will follow that sensation into your body. See what it's like to open to the fact that she or he is there and provoked something awake in you. So I'm saying that all these reactions is not to have a perfect world. It's to be with the world differently. It's not to make it perfect at all.
It's not to change the reactions.
No, notice the reaction and allow yourself to follow that energy inside and see where it attaches in you. Because it's like just what you're saying, like that whole thing. If you're pointing a finger judging somebody else, well, it's one finger forward and three pointing back. So usually whatever it is a person reacts to, and then the honesty comes in, is there truly a reaction? Will you really admit that you are reacting to something first? That's the first admittance. I'm in reaction. And then the second part is, okay, to say to yourself, okay, what's really going on? And tune inside your body to see where the energy connects inside. Because if you have reacted, it will have something to do with something inside of you. And so the more you find those areas and just feel and open to them, then yes, this then creates global peace, actually, because the more everybody's in acceptance, the less people will need to trigger you. Does that make sense?
I was in a church yesterday, and just for like, I must have not had much to do or something, but anyhow, very enjoyable. And there was a question there that I think had to do with a future conference. You know, is humanity destroying the planet? And it just came to me to say, you know, when you're talking about a reaction, it came to me to say that sometimes we don't learn unless the situation is really excessive.
Yes.
We really got to get hit over the head with a hammer in order to really wake up to some things, very subtle things we don't notice. Or we just say it's okay, you know, it's just okay. So then we should be thankful for something that really just clobbers us, you know, right over the head, because, you know, maybe for a long, long time we weren't noticing that on a subtle level in ourselves.
Yeah, and then the more that you accept those things and you see that they're actually you inviting yourself, then the invitations get more and more subtle. Sometimes they're still pretty big, but a lot of them are more subtle. But because you see from your own experience the gift that they can be when you follow that reaction inside, then the more open you are to actually, you know, it just becomes more joyful and more interesting. So I remember when I was first opening to all this stuff, I would say to my husband, well, you know, I'm looking forward to when we have some sort of argument, because then I get to find more of myself, right? It becomes a beautiful thing to have any kind of frustration or irritation, because then, oh, look, oh boy, frustration, irritation happening.
Did you scare him? He said, wait a minute, I don't want to play that game.
It's true, actually, that was my first husband.
Well, you scared him right out of the club, huh?
And but he was okay. He admitted that it was fear, that being with me provoked a fear that he wasn't ready to be with, and that was just the truth. And when I heard it like that, you know, so that way of relating ended, and a new way of relating is how it is with him. He's still here. He's still the father of my children, and we don't have much actual personal interaction or anything, but we're still in each other's lives. It's just different.
I kind of wanted to volunteer in a way just in these last few months, and I've just been kind of dancing around different opportunities to film students. And maybe it started, a lot of it started when you shared about the Windsor House School. And that was back in February. Well, I think you shared about it long before that, but I met Helen Hughes in February and did that talk with her. And actually, I found another school just like that, really like 1 mile away from my house.
That's just great. See, and that's awareness, right? Once you're aware of something, all of a sudden, I mean, do you notice that?
It's like, there, yeah. It's already there.
And then you find all these books that it's been around since the 70s or since the 60s or since the 50s, you know?
Right.
It's like, it's just amazing. But prior to that, you weren't aware of it. And that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with that. It's just as you expand, so does the world. And as your interest goes to this, right?
Right.
Then it shows up.
Just what we said before, if the world's a mirror, of you, then, and if you start seeing people are accepting each other more, you're probably accepting people more, and you're aware of it.
Yeah, and accepting yourself more.
Accepting yourself more, right.
And in this case, accepting your own interest, because obviously it is an interest of yours, this student idea of a student or younger people and how they are perceiving life. I mean, it's just a natural occurrence in you, right?
Right. Well, anyhow, I just, I know because of we talked about exposure, and I just know how healing that is in a way. And I wanted to video students and show them their self.
Yes.
Because I was saying, they said, well, I went into school and they said, well, why do you want to video us? And I said, well, the trouble is we can see everybody else, but we can't see ourselves.
Yes.
And I want to give you that gift that you can see yourself, because when you see it, and hopefully it'll not be a shock where where you don't want to do it anymore. But I mean, you can say, oh, I can fix that. I mean, I can change that. Oh, no, that's not how I want to be. And then the next time we have a video, it'll be even neater.
Yeah.
And
well, that's actually in the Paul Lowe gatherings in the 90s, in 1994 through 1999. I think that's when I first started going to Paul Lowe's gathering. Was in 1994, and he had, in the longer gatherings, would have them videotaped, and it was priceless. And then people could afterwards go and purchase the videotape of themselves, and you would see so much more in that video. And even when that first interview on Never Not Here, that was the first time I'd actually seen myself on video speaking as myself. And it was it was so funny, because I saw it as if she was somebody else I was listening to. And, because of the state of awareness, that's how it is, right? But it's quite different to see her out there. Does that make sense? I don't know if it makes sense, but so that was a real benefit to me, to see how it is, this expression of Canela. What does it look like on the outside? There was a great learning in that, and I noticed I blinked a lot.
I know there's a great learning in it, and that's what I'm saying, with the students. But I know it also in satsang, when I video satsangs. And
Yes.
people are always, often, not everyone for sure, but some people are reticent to get on the video, or, I don't even know. Those people don't share, or whether I get invited to places to video because they say, no, this should be private, or people are traumatized and we should need to allow them the space to open to that trauma, and so on and so on. But, really, I totally agree with you that they should pay me $100 to come, every one of them, just to get on, and they should be thronging to it.
They're interested in that, but you see the two sides to that. Even when somebody says, oh, no, that's wrong, what an interesting thing for them to look at and go, now, why would I imagine that there was something not okay about being videotaped? Because all of consciousness is watching us. All of consciousness is aware of us in every single moment. The whole universe is aware. So you are seen, you are on video 100% of the time. Awareness, or God, is with you in every single moment. So allowing yourself to be videotaped or exploring that can be a wonderful thing. And then you, as awareness, seeing yourself, like allowing perhaps any kind of judgments around the physicality of it, but just watching this other self. Yeah, I think it's an incredibly healing opportunity. And yeah, especially, I've even suggested that maybe you should be receiving some financial remuneration, because what you're doing is healing. It is valuable. And how we put value on things in the Western world is with money. We charge things for it. And that's just part of what is as well. There's nothing wrong with it. It's part of the play of events here and how we live as human beings together.
as long as you brought up Paul Lowe, I'll confess that I've been writing him, and we write back and forth a little bit. And I've expressed myself that I feel so many people are left behind or left out of the equation in the way we frame our speaking about this experience. And I believe that we go right to well, too much jargon or too many, we're trying to put it in a concept and make it available, or point to it in a way. And he came back and said, well, people only can receive what they receive. And for years he said that he tried to broaden what he, his sharing, and somehow I guess he's given up on that. I don't know if I interpreted it totally right, but saying that so few people are willing to just not know, and just to live in the mystery. And I don't know whether that's an advanced state or what.
Well, it's scary. I mean, that's what John DeRuiter also in his book, he said the reason people don't wake up is because it's pretty uncomfortable to be real in every single moment, right? There's something about allowing yourself to be caught up in drama and stuff, because it keeps you a little bit away from the reality of how direct and how raw life can be. And it can be fairly rough when you're allowing yourself to be so vulnerable, to be available in every moment without knowing. So that means you're not protecting yourself. You're just being. And,
well, it has to be that it's that way anyhow, right? And that all that protection is just a fantasy or just imagined.
Well, it's you protecting yourself from yourself. That's exactly, that protection is what's in the way. You putting your own self in the way of what is. And we call it, and it's protection. So it's not to say don't wear a raincoat, right? When it's raining outside and you live in Canada. If you live in Thailand, go out in the rain without a raincoat. It's as is appropriate for where you find yourself in each and every moment. And it's a beauty to find, are you protecting yourself? And to see what life is like without that protection. Just taste it every now and again, and taste it again. And when you said earlier, what about this sharing and stuff, but even in this conversation, if we didn't share, if we didn't speak, and we didn't have this opportunity that you yourself provide in this Never Not Here forum, you yourself, in the conversation, in the interview, you became aware of somebody like Helen Hughes, and you became more aware of Paul Lowe, and that connection has grown. And everybody that you come into contact with has benefited from your being in connection with him. But if I hadn't said it in the first interview, and you follow your own interest, you see, to being with Helen Hughes and being with Paul Lowe, and then those essences affect you. You see the beauty of that?
Yeah, it's a chain reaction, or it's just allowing life to be totally fully connected instead of just picking a couple of neurons and saying, I'll just ride this main bus.
Right. Well, also the sharing, though, because there was a sharing, right? Somewhere along the line, you were willing to share Canela in this space, and Richard, and in our dance of the interview, what rose was interests of yours, this interest in students. And so out comes this whole experience of Canela with the community school, the non-coercive education, which my own two sons were a part of for 8 years, and living that. And then also the Paul Lowe stuff, or, if I mention John DeRuiter and somebody might go read his book. I mean, what benefit to them? That's beautiful, right?
Somehow that, it just caught me that the fact that your two sons went to non-coercive education, you must have benefited as somehow non-coercive mother. Or you must have got
I
that
was
feedback, definitely.
the whole reason they went to that school is because I was non-coercive already. So to me, it was the only place that I felt I could collaborate with this school, and that this school felt from my own heart to be something that my sons would be more accepted in, which is the only reason why I moved and live in North Vancouver right now, is because of that opportunity. So love in my heart said I wasn't willing to put my sons into this structured regular school system because it dismisses so much of who they are. And that's just in the structure. People aren't aware of that. But I was aware of that because I had to keep de-schooling them. They'd come home from, like, and we're talking grade 1, kindergarten, right? They'd come home and stuff was happening, and then I would need to, support them to recognize, well, the teacher doesn't see them as a real person. They're taught to generalize and treat students as if they were all the same, and a whole bunch of little books lined up in a row. And so they aren't seeing who they are. And therefore, it can be rough on children to be in a regular school system because they're taught to be the little books all in a row. Generally, and that's another generality, it's changing a lot. The world is changing a lot, and there are different aspects of non-coercion that are coming into more traditionally coercive schools.
I have to share that an amazing thing happened 4 days ago. I went to see an honor ceremony in a high school. I think it's called Maine South, and it's a big school, and it's in a well-to-do neighborhood where most of the parents are upscale, and it was the language department in Maine South was giving honors to the top 20% of the language students, and it was totally amazing. 330 students received honors, or congratulations, or some kind of a premium. And it took actually 2 hours to get them all up on stage and shake their hand and so on. It was almost like a mini graduation or something like that. And then there was like 17 teachers in the language department. I mean, I was totally amazed. And just to see them all walk across the stage and see their bearing and see their posture and the way their gait and their dress, and I think they're doing incredibly well. And they played the game of national testing or something like that, and scored really, many of them were in the top 20 or less, even higher in some kind of national recognition here. And this here we are in the Chicago suburbs. It was amazing,
Yeah.
So then everything is really working the way it needs to work. Just to say the last thing about including more people in this teaching, and of course it's got to be appropriate. But I don't really, even on the show, I don't really like to play an end game or talk about how it is or what's the experience of oneness or what's the experience of enlightenment. I just like to say things that we said, like that play a game about what's happening now. And what's happening now in your own little icon, the one you've got.
It's exactly, to me, ultimately it's very tantric because there's energy and essence, and you and I are playing a game of ping pong of essence, of you say something and then I respond to you and then you respond to me, right? It's this infinite play that goes to you and then back to me, and we touch each other, open in this direction and in that direction, and it creates this conversation. I don't know, what did I say all that for? I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah? No, that's good. Okay, here's one. I have to throw another one on that, because I was reading a book about like the layman's view or some kind of a science, right? And actually the quantum, what is the quantum? And so it was talking about a time in Einstein's life when Einstein and Niels Bohr knew each other. And somehow he called them these two intellectual giants. And maybe it wasn't Niels Bohr, but I should have read it before I recounted it. But anyhow, apparently they met a whole lot of times, and they would just throw things back and forth, you know, and really they were honing or refining how they looked on this quantum and what the heck it could be, and you know how important it was, and so on like that. And I was wanting to ask somebody, is that what's happening with non-duality? I mean, can we throw it back and forth and refine it? We can refine our pointing, but maybe it's not abstract like science is abstract. And so what we're pointing to is not abstract, and so maybe there's no place to hone it. I don't know, because this honing thing is kind of like refining an abstraction.
The only thing is that we aren't doing it. This is occurring, right? And if it's being honed or not honed, it's doing it itself, right? Because you've created a container called Never Not Here that's primarily to do with speaking about what is directly, we're already supported to that. So everything we say here, and we toss back and forth, like we're just tossing this back and forth. I say something, and then you hear that, and then that changes you, right?
It sure
then
does.
You say something like what you just said, and then that changes me, and then I respond, and we're both becoming more of each other as we do this, because we're spending time and listening and playing awareness back and forth in these flavors that we are. And the more conscious we are, aware of that, the more significant the honing will be. If there's honing happening.
Well, the key is that you said play, and if there's playing happening, I think there is.
Yeah, but we're aware of that. We're even speaking of it. So when we speak about it, that's the pointing directly to it. And then it itself rises up and vibrates that much more strongly. The actual energy of what we speak of becomes more available to more people because it rings itself alive, because we're saying, look, here it is, right here, right now, happening as we speak. And it reaches out and touches itself in each and every person that listens to this. That's what it is. Consciousness is doing its own self. It's waking its own self up. The invitation is to just get out of the way, right? The more we get out of our own way, the more energy goes through, the more acceptance there is, the more awareness expands. That's consciousness. It's actually God or goddess. I mean, how beautiful. It's love. Love loving itself, and here we are in the midst of it. And the more we're aware that it's love, the more loving it is in the direct experience.
So many thanks for playing in our airwaves.
Yes, I mean, from who to who, right?
to love to love.
Love to love, exactly. And it's an expression of love. This whole moments in time that we've spent together, and that's to me what that beauty, what that gorgeousness is. Regardless of what it looks like, there's a part that is completely aware of that, no matter what. And it's opening to that turns life into the most humbling and yet beautiful and delightful experience. I can't help but invite more people to allow this for themselves. So thank you, Richard. Thank you for this interview and being in time with my new little book coming out, this exposure of Canela. And I hope people like it and they find it supportive, because it's well, I don't know about liking it. Maybe you're going to be triggered by it, but that's great too. Go ahead and judge this little book and notice your judgment and follow it inside. See what's up with that. And the intention of the book is to support you to more of yourself.
So right here, right now, I'll I'll get this movie out tonight so people can also get some of these gifts.
Beautiful. Thank you, Richard.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you, Canela. And bye for this time.
Okay, bye-bye.
I'm always enjoying how close I am with Canela, and I hope you are also. And so it's only building and building and building. And as is all of our connection. So bye for now.